Good morning, second graders. This is our story for the week. It's our lesson 29. The title of our anchor text is Two of Everything. You can see the cover here. And our paratext will be a Reader's Theater Stone Soup, which is really fun. We'll get to that later on this week. But our new vocabulary words, let's review those. Number 1, search. It is fun to search for buried treasure. You never know what you will find. 2, contained. This old box contained jewels, coins, and other treasures. Startled. The diver was startled to find treasure at the bottom of the ocean. Odd. Do you think it is odd or strange to look for buried treasure? Leaned. The woman leaned over to get a better view of the whale near the ship. Tossed. They tossed the supplies into the trunk to pack for their vacation. Grateful. The museum was very grateful or thankful to get the old statues. Village. This village is near the ocean. People find coins buried on the beach. So, I'm thinking about those vocabulary words. A lot of them have to do with treasures and buried treasures. So, I'm wondering what our story is going to be about. Here's a preview. Traditional stories. Traditional stories have been told for many years. Long ago, stories were told aloud and then retold. Now, most stories are written down. People everywhere can read them. Traditional stories often are told to teach a lesson. In Two of Everything, the characters learn an important lesson. So, I'm making a connection. Last week we read Yei-Shen and Cinderella, and those were fairy tales, and fairy tales taught us a lesson. So this story sounds like it's going to also teach us a lesson. Okay, Two of Everything. Here is our author and illustrator, Lily Toy Hong. Lily Toy Hong enjoys camping, getting together with her large family, and eating Chinese food. She also loves learning about her parents' native country, China, and its many legends and folk tales. One day, I would love to visit China and explore the land of my forefathers, she says, and maybe discover more folk tales. So that actually gives us a clue on our genre right here. Our genre in this story is a folk tale. And a folk tale is just a really simple story and it teaches you a lesson. Okay, Two of Everything. Our essential question is, what good things happen when people work together? So you can pause right now and go to our assignment if you want to and answer that. What good things happen when people work together? We can think back to our community project and how we talked about our community and how we need to work together in order to run a successful community or state or country. You can think small, but then you can think bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay. Two of Everything. Once long ago, in a humble little hut, lived Mr. Hacktack and his wife, Mrs. Hacktack. They were old and very poor. What little they ate came from their tiny garden. In a lucky year, when the harvest was plentiful, Mr. Hacktack had a little extra to take to the village. There, he traded turnips, potatoes, and other vegetables for clothing, lamp oil, and fresh seeds. One spring morning, when Mr. Hacktack was digging in his garden, his shovel struck something hard. Puzzled, he dug deeper into the dark ground until he came upon an ancient pot made of brass. How odd, said Mr. Hacktack to himself. To think that I have been digging here all these years and never came upon this pot before? I will take it home. Maybe Mrs. Hacktack can find some use for it. The pot was very big and heavy for old Mr. Hacktack. As he stumbled along, his purse, which contained his last 5 gold coins, fell to the ground. He tossed it into the pot for safekeeping and staggered home. His wife greeted him at the door. "Dear husband, what a strange pot!" Mr. Hawk explained how he had found the pot. "I wonder what we can do with it," said Mrs. Hawk. "It looks too large to cook in and too small to bathe in." As Mrs. Hawk leaned over to peer into the pot, her hairpin, the only one she owned, fell in. She felt around in the pot and suddenly her eyes grew round with surprise. "Look!" she shouted. "I've pulled out 2 hairpins, exactly alike, and 2 purses, too." Sure enough, the purses were identical, and so were the hairpins. Inside each purse were 5 gold coins. Mr. Hacktack was so excited he jumped up and down. "Let's put my winter coat inside the pot. If we are lucky again, the pot will make 2 coats, and then we will both stay warm." So into the pot went 1 coat, and out came 2 coats. They began to search the house and quickly put more things into the magical pot. "If only we had some meat," wished Mr. Hawk, "or fresh fruit, or one delicious sweet cake." Mrs. Hawk smiled. "I know how we can get anything we want," she said. We put their 10 coin She put their 10 coins into 1 purse, then threw it into the pot. She pulled out 2 purses with 10 coins in each. "What a clever wife I have," cried Mr. Hawk. "Each time we do this, we will have twice as much money as before." The Hawks worked late into the night, filling and emptying the pot until the floor was covered with coins. Morning came, and off went Mr. Hawk with a long list of things to buy in the village. Instead of vegetables, his basket was full of gold coins. Mrs. Hawk finished all of her chores and sat down to enjoy a cup of tea. She sipped her tea and admired the brass pot. Then, with a grateful heart, she knelt and embraced it. "Dear pot, I do not know where you came from, but you are my best friend." She stooped over the pot to look inside. At that very moment, Mr. Hawk returned. His arms were so full of packages that he had to kick the door open. Bang! Mrs. Hawk was so startled that she lost her balance and fell headfirst into the pot. Mr. Hawk ran over and grabbed his wife's legs. He pulled and tugged until she slid out onto the floor. But when he looked at the pot again, he gasped. 2 more legs were sticking straight out of it. Naturally, he took hold of the ankles and pulled. Out came a second person. She looked exactly like his wife. The new Mrs. Hawk sat silently on the floor looking lost. But the first Mrs. Hawk cried, "I am your one and only wife. Put that woman back into the pot right now." Mr. Hawk yelled, "No, if I put her back, we will not have 2 women, but 3. 1 wife is enough for me." He backed away from his angry wife and tripped and fell headfirst into the pot himself. Both Mrs. Hawks rushed to rescue him. Each grasped an ankle, and together they pulled him out. There were 2 more legs in the pot, so they pulled out the other Mrs. Hawk too. Just what does one Mr. Hawk have for another? Mr. Hawk cried angrily. "This pot is not as wonderful as we thought it would be. Now even our troubles are beginning to double." But his wife had been thinking while he was yelling. "Calm down," she said. "It is good that the other Mrs. Hawk has her own Mr. Hawk. Perhaps we will become best of friends. After all, we are so alike he will be a brother to you and she a sister to me. With our pot we can make 2 of everything, so there will be plenty to go around." And that is what they did. The Hawks built 2 fine little homes. Each house had identical teapots, rice bowls, silk embroideries, and bamboo furniture. From the outside, the houses looked exactly alike, but there was one difference. Hidden in one house was a big brass pot. Of course, the Hocktocks were always very careful not to fall into it again. The new Hocktocks and the old Hocktocks did become good friends. The neighbors thought that the Hocktocks had grown so rich that they decided to have two of everything, even themselves. Okay, that is our story for the week. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good day.